Hello and welcome to this week's Mastering the Markets with me, Matt. I am a senior market analyst at PrimeXBT. And if you have not already met me in the previous streams, welcome to today's stream. I'm going to be going through a couple of things around the platform, as well as explaining a bit about session analysis to you. So let's dive right into it. I'm super excited to be here, and I hope you guys are too. So let's jump right into it. So this week, we've got some quiet fundamentals happening. We've got the Fed speaking tomorrow, pretty much just a discussion around what is going to be happening going forward. It's not really a set in stone plan as to, exactly what he is going to say. So last week, we obviously had the Fed cut interest rates for pretty much the first time since 2020. Now, everyone was kind of anticipating that we would cut rates by 0.25%. And we came in at 0.5%. It kind of caused a bit of a shock in the market, to be entirely honest with you. So I'm quite keen to see if he maybe signals anything in that meeting tomorrow about how he is going to be going forward in terms of rate cuts, if he's going to carry on being quite aggressive into Q4, or if he's going to maybe be a little bit more easy in terms of the rate cut decision. So that's going to be quite an interesting one. You can scroll pretty much again on our platform. I don't know if I've already shown you this before, but if you didn't know, you can go to the PrimeXBT platform, click on the tools section, and then where it says economic calendar, you can see all the upcoming events. So we've also got core PCE data coming out on Friday. So that's not really closely related to inflation, but it kind of is. So it could be quite interesting to see how that data release comes out and if inflation is maybe on track to either keeping flat or if it's going to continue decreasing down to that target of around 2%. And then obviously over here, we've also got our learn and research section. So I am quite active here in terms of posting. Daily, I'm putting out some technical analysis on various cryptocurrencies and global market assets that I think are quite interesting. And feel free to go and use them. So I've got some articles from yesterday already up around gold. And you can also go have a look at our cryptocurrency analysis too. And then we obviously have the more detailed reporting, which kind of talks to our research reports. So feel free to have a look into that, navigate around the platform and see if there's anything of interest to you. But let's dive right into the platform, and I'm quite excited to show you what I have for us today. So if you have a look over here on my screen, I want to talk about three sort of session analysis points, mainly Asia session, London session, as well as New York session. Now, throughout the evening and the day, we've got pretty active markets. We obviously have all the Asian traders trading within Asia. We have all the traders in London and pretty much around the rest of Europe trading through London. And then you also have traders based in New York, right? So these are the main sort of session times that I think you should be quite aware of. These are all based in UTC, so you might have to change that based on where you're currently based. And the platform obviously tells you your specific time zone. So today, for today's tutorial, I'm in plus UTC 2, so all of my examples will be moved out by two hours. So this is pretty much in summary what I want to kind of go through. I want to show you on the pair, specifically euro dollar. It's actually one of my favorite currency pairs. I want to show you how the market kind of moves from one sort of session to the next. And you can see graphically how the data, as well as the volume and price action, picks up in each session. And I think it's quite a key thing to know, because you can use this in your trading plan, when to kind of play in the market and when maybe not to play. Obviously, over the sort of quieter periods of time where there's less volume, maybe that's not necessarily when you want to be trading. So for example, I like to kind of trade between London and New York session time. The reason being is that is a session that is closely related to the time zone that I'm going to be awake and actively trading during the day. And I get to see sort of double volume coming through on a daily basis. Now, what do I mean by double volume? Basically, you get these overlaps, right? So you've got London session as well as New York session opening and closing at the same sort of time. This sort of volume and amount of traders that step into the market at that given point in time brings a lot of volatility into the market, and you can kind of see price action moving a lot more sort of in your favor or maybe against you. So this is pretty much it, what I'm trying to show you. So I've got this nice infographic over here. I will pop it through into the chat, and I will also be sending this into the Telegram group after. So this is pretty much a summary visually of how the trading sessions work. So through Asia, you can see how this was yesterday's example, how we kind of ranged a bit, we traded up. We then had this crossover, which pretty much then went into London session. We then had the New York session kind of overlap and open during London session. And then you can kind of see how price continued thereafter, right? So it's just quite nice to see, and you can kind of specifically choose which kind of sessions you want to trade in. So for example, let's say you are also only going to be awake during London and New York session time. You can kind of focus on these times, right? So I will send through definitely this infographic over here, which kind of shows you exactly when those times are. And you can then obviously use this to your benefit and your advantage, right? So this is pretty much in summary. This is the overlap I was talking about that I'm quite interested in. This is kind of when you see a large sort of pickup in volume, especially in assets such as euro dollar, for example, because of it being quite traded, as well as there's a lot of movement happening during both London and New York session, because a lot of the traders trading euro dollar are sitting in those time zones, right? So you get a lot of volume and a lot of volatility picking up during those times. It can be quite key if this is a pair that you trade, for example, where you can kind of capitalize on moves. And yeah, this is pretty much it in summary. If you want to draw these horizontal lines that I have shown here, it's quite easy. You simply click on this tool section here. You then have the horizontal line, and you can kind of click on it and choose how you want to. So what I try to do on a daily basis is I try to pretty much go through each session time zone and like kind of mark out exactly when each session is happening. And then I try pick and choose which session I'm going to play in. So for example, we can go through to today's price action. And if you have a look here, because I'm in UTC +2, I'm going to have to move out everything. So if you were at UTC time, you could go, for example, and start your Asia trading session at midnight. However, because midnight for me is actually +2, it will be at 2 o'clock, right? So that will be basically when Asia trading session opens. And sorry, I'm on the wrong thing here. Here you can see I've already marked it out just a little bit back. So that would be pretty much when Asia trading session would start out for me. It would then close at 11 o'clock my time, which would be pretty much during London session open as well. So if you have a look here, you can pretty much see that there is your sort of Asia trading session throughout the day. So you can see today we didn't have much volatility picking up in the market around this time period, as well as if you have a look now, especially going into London session, you can see right now we actually have New York session opening, and you can see that the pickup in volume is coming through quite nicely. You can see that on a daily basis. It will kind of move cyclically between the sessions, and it will either say sweep liquidity on either side. So if you have a look for today's example, it's quite a nice one actually. If I have my London session trading open at around 9 a.m., which would have been around there, you can pretty much see how we traded into the lows of Asia, which would have been around here somewhere. And we kind of picked up these lows, and then we started to trade higher thereafter. So that's pretty much like quite a nice summary of how you could visually see this on a day-to-day basis. I would say that this is a bit more of an advanced technique. However, I just want you to focus on understanding when the sessions are, when you can trade, when there's a lot of volume, because if you understand that, you can pick and choose your trading sort of patterns and strategies a lot more sort of better, if you want to call it that, rather than just trading at random times when the markets say not open, or there's not really much volume or traders participating, right? So you can see quite nicely now how in New York session we are picking up with a lot of volume. This is pretty much on the New York Open, and we also obviously have London Open still kind of running. So if you have a look here, this is pretty much all the price action that's happened throughout London, and you can kind of see we will roll over now where we have the cross, right? And that's pretty much what I wanted to kind of teach you a little bit today. It might be a bit of foreign knowledge to you, or maybe you already knew this, but this is quite a key thing I think that you can use on a daily basis. And it's quite nice to kind of infographically look at this on a daily basis, because it gives you a nice plan. It gives you a nice structure. You're marking out each session high and low, and you're seeing how price kind of reacts to these highs and lows when you get there. Now, I would definitely say that this is something you can use in your lower time frame strategies. If you're more sort of centric to playing on the higher time frame and swinging it a bit more, then I would suggest using these in conjunction with the lower time frame. So rather have your higher time frame buys structured in a certain way, and then using these sessions and lower time frame analysis to kind of pick out when charts are going to move, when price is going to move, and maybe potentially where it could move to. So that's pretty much all I wanted to kind of show you today from a sessions analysis. I don't want to deep dive too much into the technicalities of that. We'll definitely get there at some point throughout our trading career together. However, I just wanted to show you exactly when these price action moments are happening. And you can already see how during London, we pretty much had no sort of movement, a kind of a ranging price action over here. And now automatically going into New York session, we can already see volume picking up. And that's kind of what I was mentioning about having that cross sort of functionality between traders and institutional desks sitting in two different markets, but obviously combining their volatility and their order flow books at any given point in time. So that's kind of something that I wanted to just show you a bit today. It might look a bit complicated, but for the most time, it's quite key to just understand exactly what those time zones are. And I'll definitely pop through the infographic into the charts, the chat, as well as the Telegram group, so you can see that. Now, there are some things that I was quite interested in besides just trading euro dollar, and that was gold. Again, I know we traded gold last week, but I wanted to show you how on our RSI indicator that we were getting to these levels of potentially showing some sort of overbought or oversold signal. Now on gold, you can see we've been absolutely trading to new all-time highs pretty much since the rate cut decision that happened last week. So you can see here now we kind of pretty much trading at around $2,600. Now you can see on the 4-hour time frame, we seem to be kind of breaching the 70% level, which may be suggesting that we are overbought. But for the time being, I think that these risk assets are going to still continue higher to some degree. I don't really know exactly when we might potentially see some sort of pullback, but I wanted to also show you how you can use the RSI indicator that I showed you last week in terms of potentially scalping anything from a lower time frame centric position. So this is pretty much in a nutshell. Price action just seems to be on an absolute run right now, and that's why sometimes when I'm using these indicators and the session analysis, I don't really use them fully to the point where I base all my sole analysis in them. I rather try to use them as confluences, and I rather tie in these confluences and indicators into my plan, rather than just going about using them in the way that, oh, okay, cool, we've reached this RSI 70% level, we are now potentially overbought and price action is going to definitely reverse from here, right? Price action does not have to reverse from here. It can continue trading to new highs if it wants to. We've also got the Fed speaking tomorrow. They could release more statements saying that maybe they're going to be a bit more aggressive in terms of how they cut interest rates going further, and that will just see gold push even higher, right? Because of these risk assets, it's quite tricky in these environments to kind of pick and choose how you want to specifically play the markets. But for demonstration purposes, I wanted to show you again how you could potentially go into some sort of positions if you were under the impression that, say, price was overbought. And that kind of leads us back to the CFD trading platform. I did quite a nice tutorial based on this last week, as well as our deep dive videos, where I'll show you how you can kind of trade in the CFD platform. I think it's a really great tool to use. And if you didn't already know, if you wanted to trade, say, an asset like gold, you can go over into your CFD section, So we obviously have all markets, CFD, crypto, as well as Forex. Now, for this example, I wanted to show you how we could trade gold in this scenario, which would be under the CFD section. You simply toggle to click on it. It will then pop up. You can come over here and you can see pretty much here is your bid and your ask, as well as the percentage change on the day. And if you want to get this gold chart up, you simply just double click on it. Right now, if you were under the impression that, okay, we were potentially overbought or oversold in this scenario, I've still got an order here that I'm going to just quickly delete. Then if you wanted to sell a market order here, it would be quite easy, right? So you pretty much will just go on this button here that says sell. You click on it. You can change the amount that you want to be in. So let's say, for example, you want to say sell 5 lots. Then you can choose your place stop loss and take profit levels. And if you go over there and let's say, for example, I want to try maybe hold a swing position and have my shorts at around 2,800, for example, then you can see here what your projected loss would be, right? So I've got a bit of equity sitting in this account. So this will tell me now that if price say had to get to $2,800, that I would get stopped out for a projected loss of around 680, right? So that's always something I try and emphasize that I think is really key and nice to use, is putting these sort of place stop orders and take profit levels. And if you haven't watched the tutorial that I did on Euro Dollar, feel free to go into our YouTube Academy channel and you can go and have a look how I go through this in a bit more detail. I also show you how you can use potential stop orders, limit orders, etc. But for today's example, I want to show you how you can potentially get into a short on, say, gold. And if you were wanting to protect yourself, you would be able to do so by having either stop loss and take profit. So let's say, for example, I wanted my stop loss to be around $2,800. That would be this projected loss of around 680. And let's say I wanted to scalp this back down to say 2,400. You can just simply manually change that. There we go. You have a pretty nice sort of risk to reward of 2 to 1, I would say, more or less. If this hits my take profit, I would get around $1,300. So if I wanted to go through this now and market execute, I would just go simply confirm. Now you can see that the order has been filled, super easy, and it will be running, right? Remember how I kind of explained last week that if you were in a limit position, it would show in your order section, not necessarily your live position section. But if you were in an active position, this would show over here, right? So here you can see, okay, cool, we're running at say a loss of around -$1 at the moment. And if you wanted to kind of toggle around a bit and change the, say, the interval at which you were looking at this chart, you can do so by pressing here. And that's pretty much how I wanted to show you, if you were in this trade and you were wanting to maybe potentially go short, you could do so like that. And if I wanted to say execute a buy position, so I'm going to get out of this one now. I'll just close this position here, go confirm. It will then tell you, okay, cool, all your orders are now canceled and they've been filled. And that's pretty much how you can go about doing that. If you wanted to say buy a market order, you would pretty much just do the opposite thing, right? So you click on the buy button, say you want to change the amount to say, let's go 2.5 now. You can then execute automatically. So let's say you want to quickly just get into this trade because you don't have enough time to place your stop loss and your take profit. Then it's quite simple, right? Your trade would have been automatically executed in this example. You can go over here, double click it. It will then say, okay, place stop loss and take profit levels. And then you simply click on that, right? So this is pretty simple. This is quite a nice way to go around the CFD platform. I really like using these tools to kind of calculate my risk to reward as well. So let's say, for example, I wanted to get stopped out at around this low, which was around 2,650. Then I would simply just go and input that like that. And let's say I was scalping this back into the highs of around 2,700. Then I'll just quickly modify it like that. So you can already see there that my projected loss would be around $30 and my take profit would be around $88. Now, that, let's say, for example, you wanted to try and catch on the rest of this momentum. You see gold pushing up. You want to kind of be in this trade. This is how you would do it. And you can pretty much see that your take profit and your stop loss level would be now activated. And when price would get to those levels, if you didn't want to manually intervene, it would automatically close the position for you. So I think it's a really cool trading technique and tool to use. You can kind of see here how we pretty much running at break even right now. And that's pretty much how you can use this in connection with how you want to execute and do your trading analysis. So for example, how I explained in our previous sessions is I like to go onto our analysis section. Now, if you don't know how to get there, you simply click on this section that says more, where it says analysis. It'll take you back to this trading view technique and chart over here. And there you can do, say, more detailed analysis, etc. So for the most part, it's pretty simple to use. I wouldn't really play around too much on the trading view side of things, especially if you want to execute your positions and you know exactly what you want to do. Then I would just hop over onto the trading view and our CFD trading platform, as well as our crypto futures platform. So that's pretty much in a nutshell how you can do it. It's pretty user friendly. There's a lot going on here. But for today's tutorial and kind of live session, I wanted to show you how you could potentially execute on some gold buys. And I wanted to just show you a little bit more about how the session analysis work day in and day out, and how you can potentially build that into, say, your trading plan. So I'll definitely send that through into the chat. But for today's tutorial, that's pretty much a summary of it. It's quite a short one, nothing too detailed, but at the same time, a lot of value add, I think. So I appreciate everyone kind of streaming in and tuning into today's live, and I will see you in next week's live. So stay tuned for more market updates, and I will see you guys next week. Thanks again.